Hey guys, Boris Lansberg from BK Forex. Welcome to our Forex Daily Technicals for 5/9/13. FX Prime for break. Trading foreign exchange on margin carries a higher level of risk, may not be suitable for all investors. So I ask you to read this disclaimer very carefully and understand all of the risks involved and associated with trading on margin, and seek advice from an independent financial advisor if you have any doubts. So the reason why I think we're sort of on the cusp of a couple of breakouts, obviously, is Euro chart first and foremost. Um, we're inching towards this 32, 32.50 upper end of the range. And if we can bust through this level, we obviously open up the run from 30 all the way up to 33 to 35 to the top side. This is, I think, kind of very surprising to a lot of people who are negative euros. But the fact that um, it's been able to survive talk of negative deposit rates, it's been able to survive all of the contraction in the eurozone. The trade here seems to be that despite everything, Europe is starting to muddle on through. Perhaps the Germans are actually bottoming out, or again picking up a pace in their economic data, because the last few economic data points have been much better than expected, and they will therefore carry the burden for the rest of the eurozone. So there's a mild bid to the upside. The euro has definitely had a much more pronounced upward bias over the last couple of days, and you can see that here. You can also see it sort of on a longer term chart where every point of decline has been higher. So you start at 29.50, which is the lower end of this bigger range, but then you basically kind of finding higher bottoms, and that so far is relatively bullish for the euro. 32 now becomes the key breakout point. We just got rejected here, but the real breakout point, what do we get turned here? I think it was 32.50, right? So 32, then 32.50. This is a pretty serious corridor. If we can bust through this corridor tomorrow or the next day, that really does open up the run into the 33s and 35s against, I think, what absolutely almost everybody on the conventional wisdom thinks is going to happen. Similarly, we're looking at Aussie right now, and Aussie is certainly the conventional short. Everybody wants to be short Aussie. There was an IRSON conference today where Stanley Druckenmiller said this was his favorite short trade. And Aussie definitely looks very, very distributive on a longer term basis. You basically have failure at 105 and just absolutely no rally. Every counter trend rally is just very weak, and you have a series of lower highs, which certainly bears on the Aussie for the downside. But the critical thing with the Aussie that I think is very important is this 101.50 level. That has held against some very, very negative news. Tonight we obviously have the employment data, which is going to come out very shortly. What's going to be interesting is not necessarily the data itself, but how we not only how we trade right afterwards, but how we trade, let's say, 2 or 3 hours after that. Because if the data itself, let's say, is negative, and we have a knee-jerk reaction, but then a buy-up posted, it would suggest that this 101.50 level still remains relatively sound. If, on the other hand, we really distribute and break 101.50 and break 100, that would suggest a much, much more negative pattern, and we were sort of headed all the way out towards parity as the market starts to price in the possibility more rate cuts from the RBA and a pretty serious slowdown in the Australian economy. So that kind of looks interesting to the downside if it breaks these key levels and stays below those levels for a while. The top side pretty much bounded by 102.25. Now, a positive print, that's going to be interesting. Another surprise. If we have a positive surprise with Brent, we probably bust through this 102.25. But again, here, the key question is, can we hold above the 102? If we hold above the 102 for the next 3 or 4 hours, that would suggest a much more stronger rebuild, and you could sort of see this on a more defined level. A rebuild towards a possible move 102.50. 1,300 as we kind of make a double bottom here in a pretty clear fashion. So both ways look promising depending on how we get the data print tomorrow. Cable, the story with cable is that it just got rejected again at the 56 level. This seems to be almost a cement ceiling for the chart finally coming up on the charts here. Look at this, 1, 2, 3, just kind of dying on the vine. The fact that we got rejected 3 times should be of some concern to the bulls. We take this out tomorrow, say 56.20. If we're at 56.20 tomorrow, that would be a very, very constructive move to the upside, and obviously opens up the run towards the 57.58 level. If we start to kind of drift down, take down the 55s, the support here is 54.50. This is a critical support. If we test it to the double bottom, fine. If we break it, then it really becomes a very distributive top. And then the break of the 54.50s would really signal pretty much a longer distributive top with a possible retrace all the way out to the breakout at 5,300. So cable also at these very key levels here, very much worth watching for the next 24 hours. And lastly, yen. And what can you say about the yen? We're just trapped. It's really interesting how there's tremendous amount of two. I think the best way to describe it is a two-way market because yes, we're definitely below 99. This is troubling for the bulls because we need to be 99, 99.50 to kind of really rebuild energy for a pop all the way through 99.50 and a run towards 100. On the other hand, 98.50 is holding quite steadily, and we have not been able to break it in. And this was a value proposition here yesterday. They bought up the 90, the close to 98.50. I think it was 98.67. They bought that up very quickly and brought it back up to 99. So you have this very interesting tug of war, a true two-way market with lots of consolidation around 99. So it almost feels like at this point it's better to let the market make its decision than try to guess which way to go. And if the market really takes us above 99.50, the resolution to the top side is going to be a lot more definitive. If the market crashes back down 98.50, you obviously can see the resolution to the downside is going to be just as definitive. So we'll let the market tell us what direction we're going to go in dollar yen. For the time being, it seems to be a very evenly matched pair. That's how the trading is shaping up for the day. Obviously, Aussie data is going to be key for the overnight. We'll see how that trades out, and we'll be watching Euro at around 32, 32.50 to see if we can press higher as the day goes on tomorrow. Wishing you guys the best of luck and the best of trading. This is Boris Schlossberg over and out.